the electronic book review, which we've talked about so many times and which we'll hear more about, there was recently a little bit of a challenge in that longtime editor Will Lures, the managing editor, could no longer do all of the work necessary for the journal because he also has a career of his own. So there was a little bit of a crisis in terms of how is this journal going to be edited and managed into the future. And we talked about it with Joe, and we said, well, let's see, it's such a great asset to the field. Let's see what we can do, how we can support it at the University of Bergen, at the center, and create so many opportunities for our students, but also that we do want to reach out and to sort of reconstitute an editorial board for this journal based on people who have worked with it for years and who believe in it. And the first name that came into my mind when we talked about someone who could step in as a managing editor is Anna Nacher.
Yes, it is a great honor and great pleasure to be able to say a few words. Although, the only word that actually comes to mind is thank you. Thank you, Joe. For a number of years, when our paths have crossed, mostly at the conferences, I remember the first time we met. It was 2013, my first ever ELO conference in Paris. And since then, we walked a lot. And this is not a coincidence. Walking, I think about what we do as a constant walk across the fields, seeing people, places, encountering all that there is to encounter without being judgmental about it. Because something that I really treasure about this collaboration is that Joe is an ideal mentor and ideal academic in terms of what we do need right now in this society. I'm completely convinced that if we could somehow mysteriously multiply Joe and have much more, Joes, it is impossible, because Joe's one and only. But if this kind of attitude, it somehow miraculously became more widespread, both academia and the society would have been a much better place than it is right now. Because what we need is attentive reading, and welcoming attitude to newcomers, and constant and ongoing intellectual curiosity, and the willingness to serve. Because, service is something that we put on our CVs, right? There's the there's the form, you put your publications, your research output, and then there comes this rubric called service. And of course, we put stuff there, right? Because we all do peer reviewing, But to me, Joe is someone who epitomizes what actually service is in this field, like how to understand this part of our academic world, which to me right now, I think is probably the most crucial. And I think about our work, Joe, as, I would call it networks of care. Because you write a lot about writing with networks, writing in networks, networked literature, and to me it is networks of care. And the way I understand it comes both from our numerous exchanges over the years and from a very particular place. If you ever come to Portugal, pay a visit to Coimbra. There's an amazing library at the university called Jagiellonian Library, and considered one of the most beautiful libraries in the world. But what is the most important, there is a colony of bats living inside of it. And I did a bit of a research because years ago, when we had the conference in Porto, that was, I believe, 2017. So I went to Coimbra, and ever since, I got haunted by this image, like a library with books. Some of them are 17th century books, right? And there's this colony of bats living there. And not only aren't they chased away by the librarians, far from it, they're being welcomed and well taken care of. And there are two species, Tadarida teniotis and Pipistrellus pygmaeus. And allegedly, maybe also soprano pipistrelle. And I owe this knowledge to the following bioacoustic research by Professor Jorge Palmeirim from Portugal. And what those bats do, they actually they perform a kind of a pest control. And, saying pest, well, I use this word because that's how we call the insects that, the bookworms, right? But what I really mean is something different. And this is what networks of care is for me. It means, not only caring for those who you consider to be on the same page, right? That is kind of easy. But by networks of care, I understand to be able to forge the collaboration with people and places and entities that feel kind of distant, right? And maybe even considered to some extent, well, pest is not the right word, as I said, but, kind of bookworms, right? So I would like to maybe close my speech with a lengthy quote from a book, and this is an interview, which is not a coincidence. I like interviews. You can tell based on my work at Electronic Book Review, because I think that an interview is such an undervalued and kind of under-recognized future format of academic creativity. So the quote comes from a book that is an interview or a conversation between Jean-Claude Carrière and Umberto Eco. And the title is "This is Not the End of the Book." And the book was published in 1991. And Umberto Eco actually dedicates the whole paragraph to the library in Coimbra. And what he says is absolutely the pinnacle of, kind of, I would say, right at the core of what I want to do when I think about academia as network of care. So, quoting, "I'd like to tell you a funny story. I once went," this is Umberto Eco speaking, "I once went to the Coimbra Library in Portugal. The tables were covered with felt blankets, rather like billiard tables. I asked why. They told me that it was to protect the books from bat droppings. Why not get rid of the bats? Because they ate the worms that attacked the books. But the worm, too, must not be completely banned or eliminated. The worm's journey through the incunabulum allows us to see how the sheets were bound together and whether some bits are newer than others. And the worm tracks sometimes form interesting patterns that add character to the ancient books. Book collecting manuals are full of instructions about protecting your books from worms. But of course, what I would like to do, is to be able to trace those bookworms' itineraries, because, to me personally, it is as vital part of the book as the book itself. So, this is how I think about networks of care. And Joe is someone who consistently teaches me, to read very attentively. And Joe, I owe you a lot, both as, a researcher and also, I would say, as a creative practitioner, because I don't come from the literary studies. My primary field is media studies, and also I have creative practice in sound. But what I learned from our mutual exchanges, some of which are about music, of course, and from everything, actually, we had a chance to talk about together. So I learned that something absolutely crucial to build network of care is time. Like we need time. We need time to grow. We need time to mature. We need time to develop our ideas. We need time to be able to trace the bookworms' itineraries across the most precious texts that the humanity has seen. So, yeah, thank you, Joe, for this.
This week
Lesson.
we had 2 days ago we had the 3-hour session for EDR for editors, and now we're also in another 3-hour session. So I think we're doing the time okay.
Yes, I must say that is always a pleasure. So, the time is much as a resource as it is, as it is a curse sometimes. But, I must warn you, you may think you're retiring, and you may actually retire from the institution, but you will never retire from this community. That's a fact.